a focus. See, I'm seeing kind of an interesting, maybe paradoxical thing here, where you're trying to get people to focus internally, but then you're telling them on their wants and desires to focus externally and possibly on the other. Because in Buddhism, people are told to focus on the other to diminish the self.
Right.
Is that what you're trying to go for? Diminish the self?
Diminish the lower ego.
Okay. So you're seeing kind of a stratification of the higher self and working on that, whereas diminishing the lower material ego.
Well, I mean, my philosophy on the ego is that the lower ego is really a nothing. It's a set of cultural taboos and ideas that we've kind of put into ourselves and identified with, but really ultimately it has no existence. Our fundamental nature is our holy guardian angel, is our enlightened self, is our Buddha nature. You know, what we try and do and achieve in this world is largely based on our lower ego. So I try and have people work on things relating to their lower ego in order for them to comprehend it more fully.
Okay. So you're trying to get them to see what causes and influences have kind of conflated into them these
right.
wants and desires, but they're coming from, you know, advertising or from their parents or from society and things like that.
Exactly. And in fact, I consistently, throughout the workbook that is available on my website, if people want to just look at the workbook, I consistently have people ask themselves questions about where it is that their things are coming from. And actually there's a section of the workbook in the fourth level that has to do with one's values directly. However, I look at values more as states rather than as sort of core guiding philosophies. So it's so freeform that I think some people don't quite attach it to their core.
Okay.
Which the exercise in and of itself is extremely useful, but I think that it does require a certain amount of inner ethics in order to really get where you need to go in life. I feel like we all want to experience enlightenment. We all want to experience freedom. We all want to experience, the non-grinding of the gears of our consciousness against itself and against the universe. However, most of us don't really have a mechanism for making that happen. And in fact, we just end up grinding more and more the more we try to resist. If we try and become enlightened, we're actually grinding against the universe in order to try and become enlightened. If you invoke your holy guardian angel with all of your heart and just really want that, you're actually pushing it further and further away because you're identifying it with something that is outside of yourself.
Okay, if you're saying that they're lacking these mechanisms, what kind of practices do you have in New Hermetics to develop certain disciplines where people would work towards those things?
Discipline in and of itself is useful. Just simply doing something, anything, on a regular basis changes one. It changes someone from a person who believes that they can't do anything to a person who realizes that they are capable of doing anything that they want to do. The specific practices of the New Hermetics basically are designed in such a way that they lead us up the tree of life. They present to us different ways of expanding our consciousness to incorporate more and more things, of silencing our mind, which I really think is one of the key central factors of any kind of freedom, is that you are stopping the chitter-chatter of your brain. And they lead us to expand our consciousness to incorporate more than just simply ourselves.
So you're seeing discipline as kind of the a means to the particular end that you're getting to in the New Hermetics course.
Well, I think discipline is a means to an end in almost every mystical school. I don't think that there are any that say, you should just lay on your belly and eat chips all day.
Or maybe, like eat Cheetos and drink soda and mead and things like
right.
that. All right. Is there anything else you want to say about the New Hermetics courses that people might be interested in knowing about?
Well, at this time, I'm probably only going to be able to take about 2 more students in the program for the next few months, and that I'm hoping to be offering the advanced class again in the fall. So,
now, the advanced class, is that in person where you're at, or is that, again, more of kind of a correspondence situation?
No, the advanced class will be in person with me down here in Florida.
Okay.
The first one is going to be taking place on the March 24th and 25th, or March 23rd and 24th, the last weekend in March, right after the equinox.
And that's only for people who have already completed the initial course.
Well, if someone is listening to this podcast and has done all of the work of the first 5 levels, I would welcome them to come to the class if they want to. But I would really want them to sort of give me some indication that they'd actually done that. One of the things that I learned fairly quickly before I started offering this class, and really the reason that I offered it is because most people that were coming to me for advice were number one, asking about things related to the first level, and pretty much just that, and number 2, asking me, whether they needed to do this or that before they could do another thing, whether they needed to do the beginning work before they could do the advanced work. And my answer is that if you can do the advanced work and it brings you fruits, then there's no reason why you can't do the advanced work. But I would suggest that you not ignore the beginning work because there's reasons for it. So I've seen very little indication that there are people who have actually worked through all of it by themselves.
Okay.
Not to say that I don't think that you're out there, I just haven't really met anyone.
All right, that sounds good. Now, if somebody wanted to find out more information about the materials that you have, the CDs, the workbook, and so forth, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
They should come to my website, www.newhermetics.com, and my email address is there if they want to talk to me directly.
All right. And do you have any upcoming books or CDs or DVDs that are going to be released in the near future or in production, you might say?
I have a magic book that's actually sort of been sitting on my shelf for a while that I'm hoping is going to be coming out this year or early next year, that is basically a compendium, and it has a lot more ritual in it than than the New Hermetics did. That book, I'm not sure when that's going to come out yet. And I also have a novel that I have completed that I'm hoping is going to come out this year or next year as well. And the novel is basically it's a magical novel involving a young man who gets involved in a fraternity, a magical fraternity that has sort of a mixed reputation in the magical community. Has a thelemic focus.
Is this modeled on any particular organization that you might be aware of?
The group that I designed is actually, it doesn't actually exist. It's sort of more like the Golden Dawn than the OTO in its structure, but it's sort of more like the OTO than the Golden Dawn in its way of being. Mm-hmm. My experiences with the OTO definitely colored a lot of the characters in the story, and as well as the villains in the story.
All right, well, that sounds great. So again, if people want to get in touch with you or check this out, www.newhermetics.com, and I'll have a link to that in the show notes. Is there anything else?
Just that I very much enjoy talking to you, John, and I hope that I'll be able to talk to you again in the near future.
Sounds great. I love having you on the show. So you just keep me informed with what's going on with your programs, and we'll keep the listeners updated.
Okay.
Thanks for being on the show. 93.
93.
Well, that brings us to the end of another Thelema Coast to Coast, show 38. Thanks for everybody who was on the show and contributed to it. Thanks for all the people who left voicemail and sent emails. And thanks to the people who came on and actually did the interviews. And lastly, I want to thank you, the listener, for being patient and sticking with the podcast, even though we had a 6-week hiatus there. A few closing notes. I just want to remind everybody, in the meantime, between the podcast release, I post frequently to my personal blog, which can be reached at www.thelema.nu. That's thelema.nu. Or if you're lazy, you can go to thelema.com, and it will send you over. Also, I've been a little slow because of a number of things about responding to the postcards, so I have about 3 or 4 postcards to scan in, put up on the website, and then also send out the stickers. For those who don't know about that, just started listening to the podcast, if you send a postcard of any kind of design with your address on it and send that to Thelema Coast to Coast, P.O. Box 7045, Marietta, Georgia 30065, I will send you for free a Thelema Coast to Coast bumper sticker to put on your car. So I've seen a few of those around on cars, and they look quite stylish when they're on. So that's yours free if you just send a postcard. Doesn't even have to be anything fancy. If you go to the Thelema Coast to Coast website and click on postcards, you'll see a number of those that have been sent by other listeners. And when you do send a postcard, I'll scan it in and put it up on the website too. So it's just one way that I get some feedback and give something back to the listeners. Another thing I'd like to ask for some listener help with this. One of the things I've been doing over a number of years is I've been collecting foreign language versions of Liber Alve Legis. And I guess this is going to be mostly for the foreign listeners, but so far I've acquired copies of the Danish, the Norwegian, the Swedish, the French Canadian, and recently I've acquired a copy of the Polish version of Liber Alve Legis. Thanks for the brother who sent that. And but I'm looking to get other copies in almost every language that it's out there. So if you're in a foreign country, please email me and let me know if you can help me get a copy of the foreign language edition. I'm not asking for it for free. I just need some logistical help to get it. I'm more than happy to pay for it and pay for shipping and everything like that. I just need some assistance in the various countries to pick them up. So if you're willing to do that and you know how to get a hold of a foreign language Liberal, please let me know. Send me email or leave me a voicemail. Probably email would be best for that, but whatever. And I certainly will say a thank you to you on the show if you help me out. All right. The last thing I'm asking for help is for people to give me some musical recommendations. In the last few podcasts, I've been kind of going towards MySpace and grabbing some of the music off that, but it's kind of drifting away from the music that's associated with Thelema and or magic, occultism, etc. So if you've got any recommendations, feel free to send them to me via email on MySpace or however you want to get them to me, and I'll check them out, and if I like them, I'll be happy to play them in the future. So this is I guess this podcast gives the listeners lots of homework. Go check out the blog at thelema.new. If you want, send a postcard and get a sticker. Help me out with some recommendations for music and or picking up foreign editions of Liber Alve Legis. Of course, I say foreign editions because I'm in the U.S., but foreign language, how's that? Or non-English. That's probably the most correct way to say it. Anyway, any help on all of that would be greatly, greatly appreciated. The closing music is from the artist who does all of the opening music. Every time you hear Thelema Coast to Coast, you get a minute of the song Invocation of Barbarous Names by Phosphorus. And Phosphorus is doing the closing music today. It's called Liturgia Gnostica. And that can be downloaded directly if you like it, and a bunch of the other music that Phosphorus has done, including the full version of the Invocation of Barbarous Names, on the website that I'll have a link to in the show notes. So if you like his music, I encourage you to go to his site and download it. It's lots of great stuff. So until the next podcast, thanks for listening. Love's the law. Love under will.
O glorious Godhead of the aeons, thou secret center who art surrounded by the radiant presence of the host of holy angels and messengers of light, hear our prayers and listen to our thoughts, which rise from this world